Hey guys, I'm in upstate New York, well a little bit farther north of Chappaqua. We're up near Kingston in, what town is this? Esopus? No.
Yeah, town of Esopus.
Esopus. And we're pressing apples. We're using an old-fashioned cider press, and this is how you get apple cider. And in a minute we're going to throw apples in here, crank this crank. It's going to chop up the apples and dump them in this container down here. And then we take this big crank, we put a top on the container, crank it down. It's going to push down on the apples and squeeze out all the juice. And we're catching all the juice in these containers here. And then we drink it. It's really good too. It's amazing. That one's great. Okay, so here we're cranking and throwing the apples in. And this is my cousin Paul. He is Mr. Rubeo also. He's a teacher. So, Mr. Rubeo. So, Mr. Rubeo, what kind of apples are we throwing in here?
These are Red Delicious. No spraying. All natural apples. They're little because they don't have any. They're on trees that haven't been pruned and things. So they taste great. They don't look so good, but they taste great. And you can put different kinds of apples in, like this big one's called a wine sap, and this gives it a nice, tangy sort of taste, juicy taste to it. We're going to toss that one together. Keep the press going really fast. The hopper. This is called the hopper. Just throw them in.
That's called a piece of wood.
And the reason this is called a hopper is because if you toss them in there fast enough, it just pops right up out of there. And the apples hop around before they get crushed. Throw a couple in. Show you what I mean. That's the first step in the process of getting that nice juice out of the apples.
They're getting chopped up in there, going down below through the hole, and ending up in our bucket, which is lined with a cloth that's going to keep all the apple parts, you know, in the bucket, and all the juice is going to come out and end up down in our.
The next part of the process is to, after you've got the pulp, everything ground up, the apples ground up, is to slide the bin down underneath the press itself, and then fold over the cloth, cover it over on the top. And if you look closely, there's a little tray here that has slots in it, and in the barrel sits on top of the tray.
We got.
And then the press presses down on top of it. Let's get this. The press is a piece of wood with a block and an cast iron piece on the top, and that the end of the rod goes into this hole, and then you slowly turn it down, set it so that it's directly underneath, and then gradually turn the press, and as you do that, see the juice starts to flow right out the side.
See it coming out here, this little hole? Now we got a nice big pan here because this is an old press and it's leaking all over the place. It all doesn't just come out of that little hole, so we're catching it everywhere.
And many years ago, when good drinking water was hard to find, people would press apple cider or apple juice and use other kinds of fruits because they knew they could get good, clean water, and they'd drink the juice, and that would be their like drinking water. So that it was common for people to drink lots of juice, and then they would avoid drinking bad water.
And we were trying to figure out before what's the difference between apple cider and apple juice, so maybe you guys can look it up on the internet, do a little research, find out what's the difference between apple cider and apple juice. We're not going to tell you. We really know, but we're not going to tell you. actually you could look it up in those little books I got. You know, that row of books they called encyclopedias on that shelf, on the bottom shelf. They're collecting dust. So we've pressed, and we've let it drip for a little bit. We've got it pressed down as far as we can get it. And we're going to uncrank it now. We're going to take the lid out. Okay. So we're lifting the crank out.
Ooh.
And we're going to show you what's inside. Okay. Take the lid off. Here you go, Ben. Alright, so inside, here's the, we had to cover the apples so that the wood didn't touch the apples. And what did Steve call this? The pulp? The pumice. The pumice, right. And the interesting thing is that now it's really dry. I mean, it's still a little damp, but if you had touched this before, right after we crushed up the apples, you would have felt a lot of juice. And if you tried to squeeze it, you would have gotten juice. But now it's very dry, and it's all compressed. And what we're going to do is take it out back and throw it in the garden and use it for mulch.
Happy Halloween!
Okay, Ben, help me take this off. Push down on this. All right, excellent. We're going to take this out back
we
and
end
dump
up
it.
getting a whole container full
Find
of
something?
the juice. And now we're going to pour it into another container, sifting out some of the larger solids that are in there. And you want to actually put it in here first? You want to,
Oh, that might be a better
and
idea.
then we'll transfer it from one to the other.
Is this
'cause
apple
it's really,
cider the movie?
it's really high.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we'll just pull it.
This over here. Gotcha.
There you go.
There we go.
That's better.
Get the timing right.
Oh, keep it over there. Now, I'm sure the juice you guys get in the store is made in huge presses. I'm sure they don't have a little press like this with a couple of guys going. This is the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, and also you have to have your cider press has to be clean. So we cleaned everything before we started. We cleaned all of the equipment with soap and water and a tiny little bit of bleach. What they actually do, I've been told by the big cider mills, is they actually put the cider through a tube and then with the ultraviolet light on the tube to kill the bacteria. They're required to do that now. It's a law in New York. If they sell it, they have to run it through this system
That's supposed to
kill the bacteria so that you don't drink cider that's got bacteria, because if there could have been some bacteria on the apples, it'll get pressed into the juice. So, but
that was just
that much, yeah.
This thing is loaded with simple machines, okay? First, actually, take a look over here, Paul. Obviously, we got a wheel and an axle, okay? Actually, I should let you guys be guessing on this one. And we're using also the crank here is another simple machine, a lever, okay? And let me see if you guys can figure out which class it is, because the force, here's the force at one end, okay? The fulcrum, actually I gotta try to figure this out now. The fulcrum is here, and the load I think would be considered in the middle. I don't know, we'll have to look at our diagrams on that one. I'm not sure about that one. Now, we've already crushed the apples. We're about to press them here, so I have to use another simple machine. Another combination of the wheel, actually the screw. Oh my gosh, we got so many. The screw, okay. Then another lever, and again, figure out what which class of lever is it, first, second, or third. Here's the force, okay. And here's the fulcrum, and here's the load over here, because when I push, it's pushing against this here. It's actually pushing over here too, so I'm not quite sure where the load would be. But the fulcrum's here, let's say the load is here. And tell me which class that is. Okay. So this thing is loaded with a lot of wheels. You'll notice it uses wheels to crush the apples and then press them. So how many simple machines are we using?
What about this wheel on this side, Tom?
This wheel, you'll notice it's heavy around the outside of it. It puts weight on the outside. And would this be considered a flywheel?
Yep.
Okay, so they call this a flywheel, which well, maybe you can help me, Paul, but my understanding is that the weight on the outside, the farther away from the axle, when you get the momentum going, when it starts to turn, the weight on the outside actually makes it easier to turn.
Mm-hmm.
It gives it more force, because what happens when we throw the apples in, we need the force to crush the apples. So the flywheel is heavy on the outside, so that actually, if you think about it, it works like a lever. It's giving an extra force, and then the spokes act as the, are the bar of the lever, and then the fulcrum down there. So it makes it easier, which of course is why we use and study simple machines. Simple machines are used to make work easier.
Oh, the days are warm, the nights are crisp. Turn, turn the apple press. Of all the year, this time is best. And oh, how fine are the apples. The lakes are misty in the morn. Turn, turn the apple press. The ghost of summer lingers on, and oh, how fine are the apples. The geese are flying overhead. Turn, turn the apple press. They call to us that summer's dead, and oh, how fine are the apples. But never mind that summer's lost. Turn, turn the apple press. Harvest comes with autumn's frost, and oh, how fine are the apples. The trees are bending with their weight. Turn, turn the apple press. We'll pick them clean to make them straight, and oh, how fine are the apples. And when we've picked and cut and squeezed, turn, turn the apple press. We'll share our nectar with the bees, and oh, how fine are the apples. And when bees and men have drunk their fill, turn, turn the apple press. We'll feel the warmth of summer still, and oh, how fine are the apples.